Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to our Foróige career coaching webinars, focusing on careers in the hair and beauty industry. The career coaching webinar is an exciting initiative created by Foróige to provide young people with an opportunity to learn about careers and professions that they may be considering. Foróige is a leading youth organisation engaging 1 in 10 young people across Ireland. Foróige encourages young people to take responsibility for themselves and to be part of shaping the world around them. You can get involved through your local club, or you can avail of any of the many programs Foróige offers, like Leadership, Nifty, and Be Healthy, Be Happy. If you would like to find out more, please visit www.foróige.ie. With us tonight are our panelists, Barry Downs, Rachel Murphy, Noel O'Hanlon, and Peter Stevenson. This evening's webinar will be a mixture of speakers and interviews. These career webinars were designed to give young people an insight into professions and to inform young people's choices. You will still need to consult with your career guidance about specific questions around courses or the CAO system. Throughout the webinar, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. You will notice along the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A feature, and we strongly encourage all the attendees to use this function and to get involved and ask as many questions as they wish to. At the end of the webinar, we will be running an evaluation poll. It will take less than a minute to complete, and we would really appreciate everyone to take the time. So first up tonight, we will have Barry. Barry attended the Irish College of Hairdressing. He has a VCTC Level 3 qualification in teaching and is the owner of Razor Republic Barber Shop in Drumlish, County Longford. Barry also teaches in Athlone Training Centre. So welcome, Barry.
All right, guys. Okay, this is all off the cuff, guys, so bear with me. I'm a barber. I've been a barber now 13 years. I believe I went about it a long way, but I think I went around it the correct way. There is many ways getting into this trade. So I started off by doing women's hairdressing, actually. I went to the Irish College of Hairdressing because I believed at the time there wasn't a lot of barbers who were good with scissors. So that led me to go down the hairdressing route. Let me see. I wanted to do a trade where you could express yourself, be yourself. And I suppose I have tattoos and piercings, and I was always bleaching my hair as well. So it felt like the right fit for me at the time. Let me see. How could you go into barber now? There's a lot of people that want to get into barber, and I'm trying to look at my notes here now. For most people, you can go through social media and you'll see barbering everywhere now. It's all over Instagram. It's all over every feed. It's the popular thing to do, and us guys, I suppose we like to express ourselves, and it allows us to do that. Like, you can dress how you want to dress. You can, I suppose, be yourself in a way, and there is such horizons within barbering that you can spread out. You can travel. You can, I suppose, there's not many jobs where you can get a trade and do it anywhere in the world, and that encourages young people nowadays to get into the trade. It's a growing trade, excuse the pun. Us men in general, we're quite vain at the moment. We're doing things that we hadn't done for the previous years, like grooming wise. I recently went past a barber shop in a different country where there was men getting their nails done, and that wasn't something I would have ever been. It certainly wouldn't have been something that I would have considered in a barber shop for a long time anyway. Barbering has changed a lot, even in the space of time that I've been doing barbering. So 13 years, as I said, when I first started barbering, the average time that guys would get their hair done would be every 6 weeks. Whereas now we're seeing young guys come in weekly, the same guys every week. A lot of that was put down to maybe skin fades. We see the same customers like getting skin fades every week. And for them reasons, barbershops became a lot busier and we needed more barbers in it. Prices as well slowly crept up over the years from I suppose from the time intensity that we put into the work, like in the barbering, like, and the fading especially, because once you've gone down to the skin, lads want that feeling back all the time, and they keep coming back more often for that. Other changes, beards has become a huge part of barbering in the last few years. It was never a thing when I first started barbering as well. Guys would usually just shave at home or do a bit of grooming by themselves at home, whereas now beards become a huge part of barbering. How would you get into it? I see people popping up with questions like that all the time. There's a few different ways of getting into it. The traditional way was similar to hairdressing, would have been down the route of apprenticeship, where you're basically sweeping on the floor, putting in the hours, and putting in the years as well. Like for me personally, I went to do the Irish College of Hairdressing. I done my scissor courses, and then I started doing barbering courses. I done short courses, and then I started an apprenticeship. So I went into a barbershop. I was 2.5 years in the barbershop, might I say, earning poor money at the time. And that's what you got to do. You got to put in the graft, and you have to enjoy. Sorry, you have to enjoy what you do. Am I still there, guys? Yeah. Because I've gone off the screen. Am I still there for you guys? Yeah.
Yes, you're still there. Sorry.
Yeah.
And turn this off.
Barry, I might come in there with you with questions because you're after losing there. But Barry, you were talking about the Irish College of Hairdressers. Where is that, and how long was it, and how do you get into that? How did you apply for that?
Well, there's lots of different courses that they run. Like so, it's mostly a hairdressing course. So like they'd be doing color, all sorts of things. Like for me, they were advertising a cutting course. That's basically what it was. It was just a cutting course, and that's what I done. Like regarding courses, there's any amount of different courses you can do. Like for example, I've been teaching in private colleges for the last 5-6 years. There's actually a course in Longford there, it's Grafters Academy, and so we had people that were learning in the evening times and running a few weekend courses and stuff like that. Where I teach now is in the Athlone, it's the LWEBT college, like in Athlone, and it's a full-time course. That's Monday to Friday, and it's obviously very intense. It's level 3. Like for people that are learning barbering, we're actually doing perming, we're doing oil coloring, we're doing you know, obviously like fading and beard work and all of the every single aspect of barbering nowadays in the modern barbershop. Like there's not too many courses that you can come out of that gives you that full range of haircuts. A lot of courses now, people are popping up doing day courses, and a lot of them would specialize on fading because it's the popular thing to do at the moment. A lot of guys that get in that I see coming through the door, all they want to do is learn how to fade, and unfortunately there's a lot more to barbering than just fading, just because it's a fad. And we've seen that a lot in barbering. Fads tend to excite young people and they want to get them into the door, but they don't want to do the groundwork, they don't want to put the hours in and learn the traditional side of barbering. I guess hot towel shaving has sort of died off a bit now in recent years, and even the tradition to be able to actually use a scissors and comb is something that has almost died off in barbering as well, because clipper work has become so big, I guess. Like
Yeah. And come here, so you went to the Irish College of Hairdressers. How long were you there, Barry?
A cutting course I spent there was probably for, I think it was for about 4 months.
Okay.
I actually went to another barbershop then to do, it's actually Fat Tony's barbershop in Galway at the time, and they run a few different courses, and that was just a basic introductory to barbering course. And
Okay.
2 weeks into that, I thought I hate barbering. I just thought this isn't for me. It's difficult. You have to have a degree of hand-eye coordination, the dexterity that's involved with your hands. Like I guess that goes with a lot of trades. You need to be quite good with your hands, and there's also the element of spending a lot of time with people in barbering. Like if you're not a people person, you'll suffer, because the relationship that you build between character, I suppose, between your customers and you is almost as important as how good you are at cutting hair. Like I've known barbers over the years who I'd look at their haircuts and I'd be thinking, that doesn't look fantastic. And they'd have people queuing out the doors because they have the gift of the gab, and people will generally come back in to speak with you, and if they enjoy your company, they'll come back for it, like, you know. similar to a publican. People come in to talk to the publican, sit down, have their pint, or many other things. Like a lot of us guys are in such a personal trade, we find out that people will spill their life out to you when they're sitting in your chair, like, you know.
So, Barry, I'm after finishing my leaving cert and I want to be a barber. How long will it take you to become a good barber? I know you need all those kind of dexterity skills, as you were saying, but how long would it take you to become a barber?
Okay, this is a really difficult question to answer because everybody is so different. I know that nobody wants to hear that answer, but I've seen guys that I've trained after 4 weeks be at a decent competent stage, and I've seen guys at 9 months that I wouldn't let them cut me dog. So it's really hard to say, like, but it's all about getting the heads. Like, I can show everybody the basic steps to every haircut, but you need to get through the heads and you need to make mistakes to get good. So what I will say to people is it's quite difficult to get straight into a barbershop because in general, you're practicing on what is potentially your customers. And if you're making mistakes in your customers, in theory, they're not going to really want to come back to you, constantly keep coming back. Whereas if you're learning in a training course or college, it's the best place to make mistakes because you can make mistakes there, learn from them, and try and get your foot into a barbershop then. That's the way I would suggest to go. Try and get a course and make your mistakes on the course.
Brilliant. Okay. So you were talking there about Grafters Hair Academy in Longford Town, and I know I've gone in. I've been a model for you on a few occasions, and I know I say that fast and loose to be very fair. But like there was a lot of trainee barbers there that night that I went in.
Yeah.
You said there it's become very popular. It's an art form, really, because well, your hair is a lot more of an art form than my hair. But are you finding there's a lot more interest in barbering?
It's huge. Like when I started barbering, as strange as it sounds, like back 12, 13 years ago now, nobody was doing it. Like, say, for argument's sake, if you look at our local town, there might have been 3 or 4 barbershops, and it was almost seen as you failed everything else, you have something to fall back on barbering, fall back on something like that. Whereas now, like, my son is he's a barber, he's 16 now. Surprise, surprise, guys, I know. And he's very busy, and he's still in school. He's in TY, and I was asked to do career guidance in there with St. Mel's actually this week, and he said like half his class want to be barbers, and it's strange. Like it's strange in the way that, like I touched on earlier on, it gives you that opportunity that if you did get a certificate or a qualification, you can do it anywhere in the world. You can bring your clippers and your scissors anywhere, and it's a way of making a few pounds. If people are in college even, it's a way of making a few pounds aside. Like I said, lads now, like they want their haircut so often. Like they want their haircut every week, and if they're going out, any events come up, they want their haircut. So the popularity is growing huge. Like it's huge. It's gone almost with the culture of the clothing, the tattoo and the piercings. It's all merged in together, and you see a lot of barbershops now where they offer a few different things, where they might have coffee shop in a barbershop and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, it's a huge industry, and in fairness, it's working very well for the male population as well. It's good to see that booming has come in. There's a question here. Did you do work experience before going into becoming a barber, or would you recommend it if you hadn't?
Yeah, I say this to my students all the time. I always say that when they get to a certain stage, to offer yourself to be able to work for free if it's at all possible to be able to do it. It's the easiest way to get your foot in the door in a barbershop. I know personally as a barbershop owner, and I only recently have just took over a new barbershop in the shopping centre in Longford this week, and I know, like, personally, if somebody offered to help me or to try and work for me and they say, listen, money's not an option, I want to get experience, you're almost obliged to try and give them a chance. And once they have their foot in the door, you become reliant on them if they can help you out and do a good job. And that's a great way to get your foot in the door. Like, there's haircuts that once you've been doing a few weeks of barbering, like a clippers all over, basically a 1, 2 or 3 all over, anyone can do. And if you're in a busy barbershop and these guys are in there, if you've offered your services to sweep the place, you'll be able to step in, do these couple of haircuts, and like anything, your confidence will grow from that, and you gain experience from doing that. And the simple haircuts is what you build up your confidence on. Like, and the way I would recommend, if you could get into a barber shop to help out that way, it's great. But if you had I suppose, a few heads under your belt first, it gives you an advantage over other people. Like,
now I know you touched on them earlier, but what qualities do you need to be a good barber?
okay, so I think you need to get past the initial stage at the beginning. You're frustrated with yourself because you're not able to do what your peers can do, and you want to progress as quick as you can. So you need a bit of patience at the beginning. You need a steady hand. If you get really nervous and your hands shake, you're in trouble, because there's parts of the barbering that you're going to need a steady hand. And I've seen it, and unfortunately I've seen people drop out. Really, like I do think you need to be a people person. If you're spending time with people all day, you have to enjoy speaking with people. You're going to have that whole cliche of the taxi driver where you have the exact same conversation all day, where how was your day? You're talking about the weather, you're talking about the football. If you don't enjoy that part of it, it makes your job quite difficult. For me, on a personal level, when I was toying with the idea of hairdressing, if you had a customer or a client in that you might not have particularly got on well with, or your personalities clashed, there's a good chance you're working with them for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Whereas in a barber, in general, 15, half an hour is the longest you're going to spend with people. But you still need to enjoy that time with the people. You need to build up them personal relationships to make them feel they want to come back to you for you, not just your ability to cut their hair. So I think that's definitely one huge part of it. You have to have an eye or a bit of creativity as well, because you need to think outside the box. No two heads are the same. Everybody's hair is different. So there's no template for this is how you do a good haircut, because that same haircut you done on one person could be completely different on a different person. And if you're not able to think on the spot, read hair, I suppose a bit of creativity, it goes a long way. Like,
okay. So if I went into your barber shop now, Barry, and I said, I want my hair to look exactly like yours, what would you say to me?
I'd say I'm good, but I'm not a miracle worker.
Well, that's fair enough. Just there, there's another question in. Is it hard to get a permanent job, Barry? And do you have to be a junior in a salon for long?
No, I'm teaching a course now. We're in our last week of the course. We have been there since September, so it's been a full-time course. It's intensive. It's a level 3 BCTC barbering course. Unfortunately, we obviously got stuck this year with COVID, and it's been a really difficult year teaching people. We struggled to be able to get models in, and we've been cutting a lot on mannequins and basically anything we could get our hands on. The guys, it came down to 8 lads. I think 6 of them have jobs this week starting on Monday morning. So that's great. Our with Grafters Academy, I was teaching there for 6 years. I think we had an 80-something% of all of our graduates working within the industry within a month of them leaving the place. But that's not to say every course is the same. It really depends on how hands-on they get during the course and how many heads they get through. Like, I'm aware of courses in Dublin where they're situated on Grafton Street and they literally have to pull people off the street. When I first heard about it, I thought, this is terrible. You can't expect students to pay and get their own people. But the fact that they get through so many heads and people are getting free haircuts there, they tend to come in. It is a great experience. And like I said before, you make your mistakes on the customers.
I'm going to ask you one more question directed to you. Can you choose what you do in a salon? If you don't want to do beards or grooming, can you decide that yourself? What you offer?
If you own the salon, you probably could. If you're an employee in the salon, you could probably put it to the owner. However, it really makes your importance to the shop and to the owner of the shop or your employee a lot lower down the chain. If you can't do everything, it limits you. And for yourself, if you want to feel justified in yourself of being a barber, I like to be able to say that I can do everything. Hot towel shaving is a big part of that. There's a lot of barbers that say they can't do hot towel shaves, or that they can't do long hair, or they can't do children's hair, and they'll turn them away at the door. For me personally, I don't think you should be allowed to call yourself a fully qualified barber if you're trying to pick and choose what you do. And it's not really fair on the other people in the shop, because they get 10 to left doing every other job and you're just picking and choosing what you do. So I wouldn't go down that road if at all possible.
Thanks very much, Barry. Barry will be staying on, and he will be on the panel at the end for a few more questions. But if you have any more questions for Barry and you'd like to ask him in the Q&A, please do so, and he will work away there answering them to you. Next up tonight to speak, we have Rachel Murphy. Rachel is a retail makeup artist, business manager for a professional makeup brand, setting trends around the world. You're very welcome, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me. So I'll firstly introduce myself, and then I'll talk a little bit about, I suppose, how I got to where I am today. So I'm 31. I've worked in beauty for the last 15 years. It's retail beauty, so it's a little bit different. I'm obviously a qualified makeup artist through the brand. I started in Clinique back in 2006, and I was there for 6 years. Clinique was an absolutely gorgeous brand. It was an Estee Lauder brand, similar to MAC as well. However, it was very much skin and skincare based. So I decided, you know, I kind of wanted to delve a little bit more into the makeup side of things. So I actually got the Clinique position through my work experience in 4th year. I was in Brynhamas for 2 weeks, and they kept me on afterwards. I was quite successful, so they kept me on. I applied for a MAC makeup position then 6 years later. With MAC, so you start off part-time and you build yourself up to your full-time position as a makeup artist. It's, especially because it's in retail, it's a little bit different. It's not, I suppose, you know, you're really showing off your creative skills. You're doing a lot of learning, in-store training, but it's very much customer based because it is retail. So I learned a lot of qualities through that, I suppose, because I was able to learn how, like, a lot of different communication skills dealing with customers, and you know, sorry, I'm after losing my complete train of thought there. But yeah, so with MAC as a brand, it's very artistic. It's a real creative brand. You really show off your own, I suppose, creative skills within the brand. You know, it's very much target based, but it did open a lot of other doors in regards to freelance and being able to do weddings and that kind of stuff. You know, I did a lot of other kind of positions before I went to the management side of things. I was a product specialist. As a product specialist, you're dealing a lot with the new products, the training, the skill drills on counter. You're kind of, I suppose, training new team members to be makeup artists on counter. And I was then a visual merchandiser. As a visual merchandiser, I was able to, I suppose, increase my delegation skills. I got a lot of experience in dealing with the team and getting the best out of the team, both training the team and, I suppose, getting the best in the productivity side of things. I then interviewed for a supervisor position, and with the supervisor, I loved the supervisor position because it was something that you worked really closely with the team, but still got a lot of, I suppose, management knowledge. And you know, I could have went down the trainer side of things, but there was something about making the best out of the team I had, and, you know, sharing my knowledge with the team is what I wanted. And I suppose I was really results driven, so I wanted to focus on that. I then worked towards becoming the assistant manager. As an assistant manager in a makeup retail business, I learned a lot about the business side of things. I was able to, you know, be the business manager when my business manager wasn't there. I focused a lot on the counters KPIs. I ensured that there was daily tasks and the running of the business was completed. So, and that kind of brings me to where I am today. So I am the counter business manager for MAC in Brynhamas, Cork since 2017. I lead a team of 17 artists, 4 assistant managers. And, you know, this is to make sure, I suppose my job is to make sure that we're reaching KPIs and you know, building a customer rapport within the brand, you know. Yeah, so if you have any questions or anything, or want me to delve in a little bit deeper, please do ask them, because I know I kind of skimmed through that. So the day in the life of a business manager. So when I arrived to store, I reviewed the week to date and the previous day's sales for both the team and the counter. I discuss any opportunities with myself, my business manager from Brown Thomas, and my manager from Mac. I do a lot of planning the team's day, so delegating tasks, skill drills, meeting customers, touch bases with the team, and I discuss KPIs and targets. So I know I talked a little bit about KPIs. So KPIs are the key products that our focuses are. So as a makeup artist and a retail artist, our key products would be, for example, lip products, foundations, and you know, mascaras. So every customer that would come to us would, like, our lipsticks are our bestseller. You know, everybody has a MAC lipstick, everybody has a MAC liner. So our goal, and my goal as a manager, and to make sure that the team was to make sure that the team would introduce a lipstick to every single customer. You know, as a business manager, and to go out onto the floor and see, you know, I'd have to make sure that there was bums and seats at all times, you know, and you know, I have two managers, so I have a BT manager and a MAC manager, and it was really important, I suppose, that I, you know, talked a lot about like the week sales and review with my managers at all times. We did a lot of management power hours daily. This is probably before, you know, the lockdowns. This was to create challenges for the team, to encourage the team, and to use different products and share techniques and observe makeup demos and give feedback. We did a lot of observations to ensure that the customers were happy with the looks that they were using our key products, and just, I suppose, challenging them and bring out their creative, different creative juices. And then every evening we would review end of day with my assistant managers and plan any counter activities for later on in the week. So we would do a lot of counter planning for like makeup classes or makeup classes or makeup events, things that would work around our new product launches or anything like that, just to kind of create a little bit more of a hype and a buzz around our counter. Now, I've done a little activity, this is something you don't have to do, but it's just something a little bit fun. So the first one would be to create a physical and digital makeup board using your favorite looks and products, or research and share 3 bits of MAC information that you didn't already know. Just a little bit of a fun activity for you to complete. Thanks so much. If you have any questions or anything, I think there's questions there, is there?
Yep, so thanks a million, Rachel, for that. We'll just to pick you up on a couple of the things that you said. So you started this professional journey from work experience in transition year.
Yeah, correct.
And would your advice, you know, there's a lot of young people who didn't get to do work experience now, but will at some stage hopefully have part-time jobs and will have opportunities to have work experience in the future. So what would you say to those young people about making the most of the opportunities that they get like that?
Yeah, so 100%, like, you know, you take everything as an opportunity. So that's what I kind of did when I went in there in 4th year, is, you know, if there's a job, it's a part-time job, it's a 1-day-a-week job, and you know, go for it, because that's where you're going to learn all your skills, and it's going to give you the experience to go into, like, to further your career. You know, in 4th year, I'll be completely honest, I had no interest in school. I couldn't focus. I actually was like wondering what I would do, you know, and I think it made me realize going into the work experience that actually it's with people is what I was good at. And yeah, and you can work your way up, I suppose. That's the biggest thing, you know, that's my main thing.
And, you know, that's something that's quite interesting about your story, because you did work yourself up, and
Yeah,
like even at one stage of your presentation, you said you applied for the supervisor, didn't get it the first time, and reapplied the second time.
yeah.
So, you know, we all have setbacks in our professional careers, and everybody gets disappointments. So how, or what would you say to the young people about overcoming them and just putting your head down and trying again the next time?
I suppose use it as experience, use it as something that you want to work towards. I didn't get it because a colleague of mine got it, but you know, it was business, and I knew I did want to get it. So I kept thinking I was in that position because I knew it would come up eventually. So I think if you want it, think you're in position, and you know, you will get it. It will be an easier transition for you, and that's how you're going to build the experience for that interview. You know, if you have all those examples of being in that position already, because in your head you're in that position, you're going to get it. You know.
And you know, Rachel, because you worked your way up, like many of us who have done jobs. I mean, you know, you stack shelves one day, you deal with suppliers another day, because you worked your way up and probably have done all the jobs that there are to do in Mac from a day-to-day basis. Do you think that makes you a better manager? And like, would your advice be to young people to embrace all the aspects of the job, even the jobs they don't like, or the parts of the job they don't like?
Definitely. It's how you, 100%. And you know, if management is the road you want to go on, you're leading by example, because you've done their job, you've done the cleaning of the brushes, you've done the stock, you know, and being honest, you want to be a leader, not a manager. So I think by leading by example and by being able to say that you've done that position is huge, and will stand to you. You know, it's how you get your team behind you and stuff. So I think that really works for me.
You talked about a bit about KPIs. Just explain again what exactly that stands for the young people, Rachel.
So it's like your key product. So it's what your focus is. So every customer who comes into us, we need to be introducing at least 3 products to them. And it would usually be our lipsticks, foundations, or it could be a mascara, your add-ons.
But how is that measured though, from a management point of view? So is it sales? Is it like, you know, their targets that you have to reach?
Yeah.
So how is it measured by your manager or?
So I manage the counter target, and I manage my assistant manager to manage the team's targets. So I might come in and see our IPT, which is individual products. So IPT is how many products you sold to that person. And I get a report sent every morning, and I'm able to look at that and break it down. So our IPT goal would be 2 products per person. And you know, we wouldn't really be able for any less, and it would be a real kind of, I suppose, go down the management road of, I suppose, performance management and all that, but it would be very much focused on targets, target driven IPT or AUS. AUS is how much the sale is. So let's say your AUS would be like a €60 and your IPT would be 2. And that's what each artist would need to finish on each day. So my report would tell me that in the morning.
So you trained as a makeup artist, and now you're running Mac in Brown Thomas in Cork.
Yeah.
So where did all that business acumen come? Did you learn on the job? Were you trained by Mac? Were you trained by BT? Who taught you, or who gave you all those skills? Or as I said, did you learn them?
A bit of everything, really, exactly what you said. So I learned from experience, my peers, my colleagues. You know, I looked up to my managers. I'd be watching my managers. I remember when I first started, and I was like, God, you know, I'm very inspired by her. Like, you know, I'd want to know everything. And you know, they might enroll you into courses, or they might want to send you to Dublin for other courses. And to some people it would have been, oh God, I don't want to do that, or do I have to log on to this? But I took everything as an opportunity. Like I was saying, that, you know, at the end of the day, I thought of this as my career, where some people might think of it as a job to fill in a couple of years before they qualify for something else. But I knew that this is going to be my career. So, you know, every opportunity I just took, and I ran with it, really, I suppose, you know.
And were you one of the people who sort of looked for responsibility of your managers, or like offered to take on roles or to take on jobs, like sought that learning out so that you could progress?
Yeah, exactly. So the roles I took, product specialist, visual merchandiser, I took those on to show, I suppose, what I could be as a manager, what I could be as a supervisor. And by taking the product specialist role, it kind of taught me a lot of the training side of things. And actually I realized, you know what, that wasn't for me. And then I took the visual merchandising position, and that was a lot of delegation, dealing with different communication skills amongst the team and stuff like that. And I realized that, you know what, I'm good at that. Like, I can get the best out of people by delegation and communicating with them and stuff like that. And it taught me how to actually communicate then with my assistant managers or the product specialists below me and that kind of stuff to get the best results, you know.
And what would you say is, you know, your favorite part of the job? If someone is sitting here and saying, I'd love to be a makeup artist, I'd love to train with Mac, you know, I'm sure there's loads of girls who love going to those makeup departments in BT or in other stores.
Yeah.
And if someone would love to do that, what's your favorite part? And, you know, what advice would you give to them?
You know, you're learning something every day. Trends change so much. So spring, summer, autumn, winter, like Mac do a lot of behind the scenes for like fashion weeks and that kind of stuff. And, you know, you're constantly learning as things change. Obviously, I love the customer aspect and I love bringing out the best in people. But, you know, showing your creative skills and making a customer feel good about themselves. Like, who doesn't love putting a lipstick on, or who doesn't love making someone smile because they feel better about themselves? Somebody might be having the worst day and they're coming into you, and you know, you're telling them to take a seat and you're going to pop a lipstick on them. Like, it's just going to make their day. There's nothing like it, you know.
And just really quickly, Rachel, last question. Can you just give like just a 1 minute guide to the young people? There's a question here about what your training was. So did you train directly with Mac? Were you makeup artist before you trained as a makeup artist with them?
I trained directly with Mac actually when I was, So I learned a lot of skills, selling skills with Clinique and skincare side of things, and then all the makeup side of things was all with Mac.
And how long did it take to train with Mac, Rachel?
Well, I'm with Mac 9 years.
No, but just as a makeup artist.
As a makeup artist, so you pass it takes about a year, really. It does take the year. And you're constantly training on counter. There's not a day goes by when you're not training and trying different skills, you know.
Okay, thanks a million, Rachel. There's more questions as well. We'll try and get back to you on the panel, but for now, thanks a million.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Okay, so next this evening we have Noelle. Noelle is a salon owner in Cavan of his or her salon. And welcome, Noelle.
Hi guys, how are you?
Part of tonight's webinar. So,
thank you.
Noelle, do you want to just introduce yourself, just say a little bit about yourself to the young people?
Yeah, I am a salon owner in Cavan. I have been hairdressing, let me think, since I was 16 and I'm now 38. So do the maths on that, 22 years. And I have gone from doing an apprenticeship to managing a salon and then to owning my own salon. So yeah, just slowly worked my way up until I suppose I hit that point. But yeah, that's just about it.
Did you always know you wanted to be a hairdresser, Noelle?
No, absolutely not. After my leaving cert, I got a college place in St. Pat's and Drumcondra to do primary school teaching. It just was not for me. I had spent my summers and weekends working in a salon, in a ladies' hair salon. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a year out, decide on my college place, defer it for the year. And the lady I was working for, well, she grabbed me with both hands in the hair salon and said, well, look, you might as well, you know, come and work with me for the year. And she basically told me, you're not going to, you know, be here just sweeping the floor. You're going to learn a thing or two. And after the year, I just knew it was for me. So she took me on as an apprentice because that was a big thing 22 years ago or 21 years ago, whatever it was, which now is becoming a big thing again. That's a whole other ball game, but that incentive is becoming a big thing again for apprenticeships. But yeah, so I did my 4 years in the salon in Cavan, and went to different academies and stuff to do different courses and specialise in things. And yeah, probably stayed on 3 years after that, and then spread my wings.
Can you outline some of the modules? Because, you know, young people considering hairdressing here, when you say that you did 4 years, I mean, it's not just cutting, it's not just colour. Like, I'm sure there's lots of different things that you do. So can you take some of the young people through some of the modules and some of the ones that would probably surprise them what they would not know about?
Yeah, so like I'm sure it's quite different now, but look at like that, as Barry said earlier on, yes, you do start, you're literally sweeping the floor, and I suppose that's a tester to see, will you stick it out? You're sweeping the floor, you're shampooing. When you're showing that little bit of initiative, then it was like at the time, you basically went through your colour brand. So the brand of colour that you worked with, they took you on to, you went to their academy. So you would have started off with your basic cutting, your basic colour, and then you would have moved up to a foundation level on, colour and cutting, your perm, and you just literally worked your way up step by step, basically from the bottom up to all your different cuts, all your different colours, your prescription colours. Like, it is vast. It's vast. And you know what, to be quite honest with you, you're still always learning. It never stops.
Well, I was just going to ask you, like, I mean, trends change, and this, some of our other panelists alluded to this earlier on. So, I mean, like, certainly extensions was not a thing, well, I don't remember 20 years ago. There's so many different things nowadays. So, like, do you have to constantly learn new skills, Noelle?
Oh, you're always upskilling.
Well?
Yeah, always upskilling. It's never, like, it's actually never ending. You're always learning. It never gets boring. That's the one thing I can say. It never gets boring. I mean, for example, take blondes. Blondes are such a big thing. Highlights are such a big thing. There's 40 shades of blonde. There's different ways of placements of colour. It's never ending. It literally never gets boring.
So you, like Rachel and Barry as well, you worked your way up. So I'm sure you had a couple of knockbacks away. I'm sure it took maybe longer than you wanted to do. What advice would you give young people about the process, Noelle, about sticking with it and overcoming those challenges?
Okay, I would say in relation to hairdressing, most certainly, as Barry said, be patient. You're not going to walk in there, lift the scissors and start cutting. That's just not going to happen. You have to be patient. You have to be eager and show a little bit of incentive. That's the first things I would say. Look, it's a tough job. You're on your feet constantly. I suppose there's the notion that it's glamorous. Yes. It can be, but it's not always glamorous. So it's a really
physical.
Huh?
Is it very physical?
You're physical.
All day. Yeah.
Oh, it's very physical. It is really, really physical. I mean, take, for example, a busy Saturday pre-COVID, when everyone was going out on a Saturday night and you were doing curly blow dry after curly blow dry, that's so physical for your upper body. But I would say to people, like, do stick with it. Don't get put off by the fact that it's a little bit tough, because every job you go to is going to be a little bit tough. There's going to be areas of every job that you don't particularly like. And look, again, I keep referring back to Barry, but I was picking up on what he was saying in relation to, like, as he said, after a couple of weeks, he thought he hated barbering. I don't think you like that, and he stuck with it. I don't think you can tell instantly. I've seen it. I've had people come into the salon from the college to do work experience and stuff like that. There is this notion that it is super glamorous, and it can be, but it's not always. So, that's the first thing I'd say to people. Don't expect that, because it is tiresome. It's hard work. It is tough going, but it's very, very enjoyable. It's really enjoyable.
I'm going to move on from the hairdressing just a little bit and just ask you about running business, if that's okay, Noelle?
Yes.
So you manage a team of staff, you deal with suppliers, you run a business with accounts and all of those things. So did you learn those skills again, like Rachel, as you went along, or did you upskill yourself in any way? Learn them?
I did do some business courses, but I mean, that can really only outline the basics for you. It's up to you then what you do with that. So I learned from my mistakes. And I mean, I made many along the way. Like my accountant, I'd say for the first 5 years, probably wanted to block my number because I was like, had her on speed dial. You make mistakes along the way. You learn from that's the one thing I would say. You are always learning, whether it's at the actual hairdressing or as a business owner, you're always learning, and look again, it can be hard, but it's very rewarding, that you go, this is me, I did this,
And as a salon owner, how much of your working week, well, is cutting hair or doing hair, and how much is it in an office,
it is
running the business as such?
So it is, how do I put this? I'm 100%, I'm there 100% of the time during the working hours, like if it's our hours are 9:30 to 6, I'm there. I'm a full-time stylist, Tuesday to Saturday. And anything else after that, the account work, the stuff like that, that's done in my free time. If it's that's simple as that. My passion is for hairdressing, so the business end of it just has to slot in whenever it slots in, and it does have to be done. It's simple as that, But that is
difficult managing staff.
I've been very lucky.
Okay.
I've been incredibly lucky. I've had one girl for 12 years and another girl for 9 years, and other girls that I've had part-time, they've come and gone, like if ever I'm looking for someone part-time, they can generally come to me and say, well, look, I can do it, I've been so lucky, but I know people haven't always been that lucky, and it can be difficult. Yes.
Is it difficult to build relationship with clients or people you work with, like suppliers?
No, the way I would look at it is, it is a huge, in hairdressing, being a people person is, to me, that's the bottom line. I mean, it kind of has to be almost your biggest skill. So I think if you're that person, then it's not a problem. You're going to have awkward clients and stuff like that, but it's how you deal with it. I mean, everybody can have their off days, us included. Generally, no, I don't find it hard to build a relationship with them. But then again, that comes with the personality.
So can you tell the young people like 5 roles or 5 jobs you do, so besides hairstyling in a given week? So just
in relation to being a business owner.
Yeah, well, or that just as part of your working week.
Okay.
So you will count hairstyling as the first one. So
yeah, hairstyling. I am, because I'm only a small salon, I am basically the receptionist as well. So it's all the arranging of appointments. I do all the accounts myself. I do the whole stock taking and stock ordering. And let me think, number 5. You
can leave it at 4 if you like.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I think, yeah, and just in general, just manage the whole, it all comes down to me managing the salon, but I have a great team and I am very lucky, so.
What made you brave enough to open your own salon, Noel?
Okay, so I'm probably going to put it down to maybe a little bit, I was maybe a wee bit naive at the beginning. I had done my training. I had worked in that salon for a couple of years, and then the dynamics of it changed. My boss left and another girl was taken over, and I thought, right, maybe when the dynamics are changing, it's time for me to change. So I got the opportunity to manage a salon first, which I did, and then there was a barber shop along with that, and that eventually came up for lease, so I took that on too. And when enough time passed, I kind of thought, you know what, I want something that's just me, that I want to be able to name it, I want to be able to kit it out or whatever. So that's what I did. I think it was that it came to a point where I probably always thought that I would go off after my training and maybe work in a like a bigger salon in Dublin or something like that, because that's where at the time he wasn't my husband at the time, but that's where he was. Then he moved back to Cavan, and I kind of thought, right, well, you know, I might as well do it for me as do it for someone else. I had a massive customer base. You know, all I really needed was the four walls. So, and like that, a bit of initiative and discipline, I suppose. I knew I had the discipline to do it. I was always, the salon that I worked in, I suppose if Rachel said, I would have always treated it like it was mine, in the sense of it was important to me, and I didn't just treat it like, oh, this is just a job. I was very much, when I'm here, I treat this like it's mine and care about it like it's mine. So I knew I had the discipline, I knew the initiative was there. So she said, give it a shot, what's the worst can happen?
Okay, so just a couple of questions to finish off. What's your favorite part of the job?
Oh, definitely meeting people. That's a big part of it. You know, constantly chatting with clients. Yes, of course, a lot of it can be on repeat, but it is incredibly enjoyable. And then the creative side of it too. You know, you are making people feel amazing. And I suppose we never realised how much until this pandemic. And when people were crying out that yes, they are an essential business, open them, you know, we never realised how wanted and needed we were, and appreciated, I suppose.
What's the most challenging part of your job?
For me, the most challenging part is probably the fact that I own the business. That probably is the most challenging part. Just because, you know, it's all on your shoulders. And well, as I always say to people, yes, it's very rewarding, but it is a lovely feeling just, you know, getting your wages paid into the bank every week and walk out the door on a Friday evening or Saturday evening and forget about it. So that probably is the most challenging part, yeah.
And just lastly, really quickly, what advice would you give to a young person considering this field? What's the one thing you would say, get out and do this before you do your training?
I would certainly say, you know, if you've got like that free time, the holidays, weekends, you know, go look for a job. If you know, if it's something you're considering, try it out first, because I mean, I was going for teaching, and it was purely that it was summer after my junior cert, and my mother said, you're not lying around all summer. And she asked my neighbour, could I have a job in her hairdressers? And that's how it came about. And that changed the course of my life. It changed the course of, you know, what I was planning to do. You know, so definitely kind of try before you buy type thing. Get a feel for it. Look, you are going in, you are going to be sweeping floors, you are going to be shampooing, but it's basically going to instantly give you the feel of whether you have a personality for the job or not, because that is a huge part of it.
Yeah, and there's learning and all that, sweeping the floor and stacking the shelves and all that kind of stuff. It teaches you discipline, it teaches you work ethic.
Yeah.
You know, and it allows you to absorb from watching other people. You know, we had a mentor on the panel the other day, and she said she watched everything, and Rachel said that as well, because you learn by watching everybody else who's been there before. Yeah,
definitely kind of try before you buy, because it's not going to be for everyone. As I said, you're on your feet constantly. It is tough going. So definitely, I would say, get a job at the weekend, summer holidays, and just try it out.
Great. Thanks a million, Noelle.
All right.
And we'll be back to you on the panel, but for now,
perfect.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next on our panel, we would like to welcome Peter Stevenson. Peter is an education manager at L'Oreal Professional Products Division. He has qualifications in business and marketing and salon management. He has a diploma in hairdressing and vast experience in leadership, training and presenting. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you. So hi guys. So I'm currently an education manager with the L'Oreal Group. The L'Oreal Group owns approximately 10 different hair care brands. So you'll probably be familiar with the likes of L'Oreal Elvive or Garnier or Redken Kerastase. And my job at the moment pretty much is to deliver education into salons. And also when we launch new products, I will go into salon and also hold events to launch these new products that we launch and deliver. And also to provide education across the board for anything to do with hairdressing. So L'Oreal is one of probably the largest, or it actually is the largest cosmetics company in the planet, actually. And it has different divisions. So we have a hair care division, which is providing products to the professional industry, and that's what I work in. We also have a consumer division, which is stuff that we sell through the supermarkets. And then we also have a division which is skincare, and also a luxe division, which is stuff that we would sell in terms of like perfumes and stuff in the big department stores, such as Brown Thomas, where I know Rachel works. So yeah, I mean, I originally started my career, finished school and did my leaving cert. Did an okay leaving cert. I mean, I was pretty much one of those people in school that, you know, if I liked my teacher and I liked the subject, I did well. If I didn't like the teacher and I didn't really like the subject, I was okay-ish. And after school, I literally went and did 2 years of business in a kind of local college. And after that, I got a job in sales. And sales was an industry where you could kind of get into quite easily, and you could earn money in. So I was basically doing telesales for about a year. And then I went into field sales. So I was selling kind of, in advertising space, and working for a couple of .coms, doing sales roles. And then decided at the same time to do kind of marketing in college at nighttime. So I did a business marketing degree at nighttime. And then I worked in marketing department up until I was about 25. And then I decided I did not want to work in an office anymore. I was like, I absolutely do not like this. This is not for me. I was sitting in front of a computer thinking my life is going to be wasted. Am I going to be here at 60 and I'm going to have to retire? So I decided to move away. And I moved to Germany. I worked over there in bars for about 2 to 3 years. And then I came back. When I came back, my best friend, who is a salon owner, and she owns a big salon group in Dublin, she had said to me, well, listen, we need somebody to manage one of the floors in her salon. So a salon coordinator type role, working on the desk, managing the floor. And she's like, do you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. So I literally went into that role, did it for a year. And while I was doing the salon kind of manager role, I was looking at the hairdressers doing the work, going, God, that looks really, really interesting. That looks like something I would love to do. It looked really, really creative. I loved the buzz of the salon. I loved the environment in terms of, it was just a nice, relaxing, comfortable environment. The office for me felt very, very stuffy. And, the salon environment just felt, it was for me in my 20s, you go for drinks after work. It was never a real pressure or fear going into work that you would have had maybe wearing a suit going into the office. So I thought to myself, actually, this is something that I'd like to do. So I literally decided to do a hair college course, which took me 16 months. The salon I worked in was called Robert Chambers, so it's a big salon group, and they had a college, and in that college I did their diploma. So I did a 16-month hairdressing diploma, qualified as a hairdresser, and then went and worked on the salon floor, for about a year or two. And because I had been teaching English in Germany and working in a bar, I had a bit of teaching experience, etc. So I actually moved myself into the academy. And within 2 years of working on the floor, I actually started teaching in the school. Now, I was a junior teacher. I was just kind of really assisting the other teachers there. But gradually, over the next 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 years, as the senior teachers would leave or move out, I gradually kept moving up. And then I think within 3 to 4 years, I was running one of the academies, because they had 2 academies. And I spent the next, I think, 6 to 7 years running a hairdressing academy. So this is a private academy. So I suppose if you're interested in hairdressing, there's different ways that you can do it. You can go and do an apprenticeship. And that simply means you go to a salon, you say, I'd like to be taken on as an apprentice. And that salon will take you on, and they will also train you. You also can attend part-time college and get trained at the same time. What I chose to do was do a 16-month diploma course and got qualified in 16 months. So I paid for that, and it cost quite a lot of money. I saved up money, but it was about, on average, about €10,000 for that 16-month diploma course. But I qualified very, very quickly. I didn't want to do the 4 years of an apprenticeship. I was 25, 26 at that age, so I didn't want to waste that valuable time. And then, I worked in the academy for, I think, about 8 years. After the 8 years, I started managing the salons. I gradually worked my way up, and then by the end of, I think, 10 years working for that group, I was managing 4 salons, running 2 academies, and yeah, just pretty much running that business. And then at like 38, I was like thinking to myself, there's nowhere else for me to go within this salon environment. You know, I pretty much reached the pinnacle in terms of that business. There was nowhere else for me to be promoted to. So I was like, I'm going to have to look elsewhere. I wanted to progress. I wanted to earn more money. I wanted to just move on from what I was doing. So I went to the color companies. So you guys probably would have heard of L'Oreal, you probably would have heard of Wella, you would have heard of Schwarzkopf, you would have heard of these big color companies. So that's generally kind of an avenue for hairdressers if they don't want to stay in the salon. It's like you have an option of going, maybe teaching in a college, or for instance, working for one of the big color companies. So I went to the color company, I went to L'Oreal, and started actually in L'Oreal in a sales role. So I was like, I'm going to give hairdressing a break. I'll go into sales and commercial, and then worked for about a year doing a sales role. And then after that, I'm like thinking, oh, I really want to get back into education again. So I went back into education as an educator for L'Oreal, and then gradually over the last few years have become an education manager. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. It's something that I've really enjoyed. I suppose for you guys starting off, the main issue would probably be getting qualified. There's different options. Again, you've got the apprenticeship route. You can go to different colleges, and you've got those 2-year, you know, diplomas that you can do. Similar to barbering, and you've got different avenues to take. And what I would say, if I'm starting off, just get into the salon and work your way up. I think it's really important. As somebody working in the industry, it's always very important from starting off to make sure that you show commitment, that you're always agreeable and willing to work, that you make yourself valuable to the person that you're working for. So, you know, to make sure that they think, oh, do you know what, I can't do without that person. And then there's always options within that company to move up, where whoever you work for. And again, always be nice to your colleagues, because when you're on your way up, you know, being nice to those people, it comes back in tenfold when you're nice to your colleagues and your compatriots. Anybody else starting off, I would say always ask for help. You know, I'd be happy working in the industry to give anybody any sort of advice, and I know the guys in the panel would be the exact same. Get your foot in the door. It's important to just start off, and then you can always work your way up. I would also say pick an industry that you like. If it's makeup, if it's beauty, if it's hair, even if it's working for a magazine, whatever it is, just get your foot in the door. Qualifications aren't as important as sometimes people make them to be. You know, you can always qualify and do degrees later on. You can always get the certificates and diplomas later on. But actually, I've met some people who literally started off in you know, in a magazine as a receptionist, and then they kind of moved into, you know, a bit of administration, and then they moved into a bit of marketing, and then, you know, by the end of it, by the time they're 30, they're running the magazine. I think the head guy of Tesco started off stacking shelves in the store. So you can always work your way up. Yeah, in terms of hairdressing itself, for those of you who, you know, really want to get into that industry, I would say the qualities that you would need would be attention to detail. You need to be able to be a bit of a perfectionist is always good. So if you know that you are somebody who keeps a really tidy bedroom, or is pretty perfect about how you look, that's a good thing, because you'll be good in terms of attention to detail, making something look perfect. Somebody who's a fast and efficient worker, you're going to have to be able to bang out those clients pretty quickly in order to earn money and earn commission. Good hand-eye coordination, as in good, being good with your hands, but also being recognized with your eyes what your hands need to do. Be an excellent communicator. So be able to communicate with your customer and understand exactly what they're looking for. And then I'd say good with angles, good with shape. I think a lot of us actually in hairdressing are almost like architects. We work with shape and we're creating shape. And if you can create and understand how shape works, you'll generally be good at hairdressing. Yeah, any questions?
Peter, thanks very much, Peter. That was very informative. Peter, you were, what, 16 months in college. What were the modules as part of that, just to let the young people know what to expect?
Okay, so the college I did was a private college. So, and then I ended up teaching in that college. But basically, in order to start off, what we did in this particular college would you would spend 6 to 8 weeks doing lots and lots of theory classes. You would do lots and lots of practical classes. The practical class will be something like, you know, applying a tint, applying a semi, applying highlights, and sectioning techniques, blow drying techniques, and then baselines in terms of cutting. Once you got up to a certain level with mannequin heads, because you'd only be working on mannequin heads, once you got to a certain level, we would allow you then to move on to clients. And for the remainder of the 16 months that you would do that course, you would be working on 2 to 3 clients a day. I think Barry mentioned earlier on that clients, doing lots and lots of clients is really, really important. If you notice a course where they have you working on mannequin heads for most of the time, or they have you, not working on clients or trying to find your own clients, I would question whether you're going to get the experience. If you find a course where it's all about theory, then I would question whether that's going to get you what you need to be a hairdresser or a barber. You need absolutely tons and tons of practical experience. Starting off, yes, with mannequin heads, but then moving on to customers in a training environment. And I know the question was asked about how long this would take to develop this career. I think after I qualified, my main objective was just to put the color on, get the haircut done, and just hope the client was happy. That was all my objective was. And then as the years progressed, it was like, actually, I should be considering condition of the hair and, the client's face shape and the texture and the eye color and all these other things. And then only I think after 6 years did I say to myself, oh, I'm kind of now at a level where I feel I could pretty much handle anything that came at me. And then at 10 years, I went, now I'm at a level where I can pretty much handle anything that came at me. And even then, that wasn't to do with perming or African hair or, certain aspects that I wasn't particularly trained in upstyling. I was really, really focused on cutting and coloring. Again, barbering came out massively, 5-8 years ago. All that clipper work, that was something I had to learn. I know Noel specifically said there that, you never stop learning, you never stop learning. I think we are one of the only industries where, we test our stuff on our client. We don't literally kind of, balayage comes out as a service, for instance, and we kind of say, let's go and do a course in balayage for 12 weeks, and then we come back in and then we're perfect at doing it. What happens is balayage comes out as a trend and we test it on our customer. And we're the only industry that does that. So we're like, oh, okay, that looks okay. You do the first one, it's kind of okay. You might do, by the time you get to 5th or 6th balayage, you're thinking, okay, I'm kind of starting to nail this a little bit. So the challenges and the education that you're going through is constant. And because I work for education for L'Oreal, education is a huge part of my job. And, going into salon and constantly educating the hairdresser is something I'm really, really passionate about. And it's found that something that I really, really enjoy is sharing that knowledge and helping people just to get better and develop and move on and improve themselves is a huge part.
Brilliant. You work for one of the biggest companies in the world because you're worth it. We all know it. What exactly is your job? What do you do with L'Oreal? What's your day-to-day?
So before the pandemic, it was slightly different. So up until the pandemic, my job from Monday to Friday would be, I would have to have 2 appointments every day. And those 2 appointments would be with our key accounts. So that means if a salon is buying enough product from L'Oreal to warrant to be a key account, they would get a certain amount of training per day or per year. They might get 2 to 3 salon visits. So my job would be to go into that salon and train them on certain techniques or certain products. I also manage a team. So that I would also direct that team into certain salons to go in and train those salons on our products and also techniques. We would also then run lots and lots of courses. So in L'Oreal, we have an academy in Dublin, but we also run training throughout the country. So I would set up those courses. So you could, for instance, come on a one-day product knowledge course. You could come on a one-day balayage course. You could come on a 2-day barbering course, a 4-day cutting course. And I would run those and also teach those. And then meetings, a lot of meetings. I go to London normally once a month. And then I'd also be traveling all over Ireland as well. So wherever the courses are running, I will be there. And then managing the team. And then Fridays was always an admin day to kind of, basically manage all that process. We would also help with winning new salon business. So for instance, if a salon was interested in, for instance, moving from, say, a competitor brand over to a L'Oreal brand, I would go in there and show them what L'Oreal can do for them as a business partner. So it's a lot working with salons basically to help them, grow their business and improve their business. And if they see us as a good business partner, they'll join the L'Oreal community rather than, for instance, Wella or Schwarzkopf, those big color companies.
Brilliant. Just one of the young people are asking there, you touched on it. Do you travel much with L'Oreal?
Up until the pandemic, my 4 days would have been on the road all over Ireland and the UK. And at the moment now, since the pandemic, all of our education has shifted online. So we would have done 95% face-to-face education. So would have been going into salon or running courses, all over the country. Now it's literally gone to 95% digital. So literally, I spent the last year in my living room in front of a camera and a ring light and delivering education digitally. So it's been a massive change. It's not necessarily something I love because I love the interaction with the customer. I love being able to read the room, and I love being able to have banter with the delegates, etc. But the benefits of digital education means that you can reach a lot more. We can deliver one education session and we can hit like 80, 100, 200 people, where if I was doing face-to-face, it might be only 6 people in one salon, and you can only hit 8 salons a week. So you can see the numbers are completely different. So digital education is going to be here to stay, but there's always a need for face-to-face, and especially when we're teaching things practically. For me to be able to do consultation or teach a haircut to somebody, it's much easier to be able to monitor that when you're there face-to-face rather than over the internet.
Okay, very good. So what's the most enjoyable part of your job, Peter?
Funnily, Noelle said she loves the customers. That's one of the reasons why I backed away from it. I loved the dynamic of the salon. I loved the casual environment, but there was so much to do as well. Like, I love the fact that, God, like when people always think hairdressing is easy. I've worked in bars, I've worked in sales, I've worked in management. I've had so many different jobs. I've taught English. Hairdressing is hands down the hardest job I've ever done. Think of being an artist, except you are being an artist on a round canvas that's moving, and you're trying to create straight shapes. That's how difficult it is. And then trying to understand every single client, because every single client that comes into you is different, whether it's their face shape and hair texture or their own desires and their communication skills. So you never can replicate something that you did on one client on another. So it's always really, really challenging. I think hairdressers are actually one of the top industries that are happiest in their job. So we rank really highly in terms of industry satisfaction. But one of the challenges I found was dealing with the public. I was good at it, but eventually I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? People just, certain customers and their hair can be really, and I think it's just, people, you get a really picky customer that really, will just continuously demand, and that can be challenging. And that was one of the reasons why I thought, you know what, these customers are getting really, really difficult. I'm going to take a step away from this. I'm going to move into education.
Like L'Oreal is one of the biggest brands in the world. Have you ever worked along with the brand itself, the branding for L'Oreal, or is it just education you worked on?
Oh no, so my role up until last year was an education manager, but now it's completely changed. So, and as an education manager, we would have done a lot of photo shoots and campaigns and stuff. So we're heavily involved. So every one of our hair care divisions will have an education department, because education is one of the key parts of hair care. We will have a commercial division, which are the sales reps, and we'll have a marketing division, and the marketing people are the people who build the campaigns. We all work together to deliver our campaigns and, you know, sell products, but also build awareness of the brand. So at the moment now, I'm doing a lot of stuff when it comes to digital. So, you know, I'm working at the moment on 2 or 3 different projects. One's with Creative Head. We're doing a blonding campaign, and another one is a Hairdressers Journal in the UK. And that, again, is another blonding campaign, because we happen to be launching some new blonding ranges in the next few weeks. And then I do a lot of Facebook Lives at the moment. And there's a lot of digital management as well. It's posting on the internet. Things have changed so much. We would normally have worked with, like, you know, famous hairdressers that would have won, you know, awards, you know, 5 years ago. Now, winning an award isn't as important as how many followers you have. So, you know, it's a constantly evolving industry, which is really, really interesting. And there's always lots and lots of avenues as well. I think education in the last few years for the colour companies was always, you're an educator, and that was as far as you could go, apart from being an education manager. But there's so many areas now in terms of digital education and quality control, in terms of education, standardization across the education platforms. And then what's happening a lot at the moment, especially across our division, is people moving from education into commercial. L'Oreal really respects somebody who has a hairdressing background that could sell. So somebody, for instance, who could go into a salon and help the salon grow their business. Right. Hairdressers are actually the best people to actually advise a salon owner about how to grow their business. We call it edumercial. So we've got a lot of hairdressers kind of going into the commercial side of the business as well. And again, that's just from having a good, solid understanding of hairdressing and the industry. You're actually a great help to work in other aspects of the business rather than just solely hair care. So there's lots of avenues, and it's constantly evolving.
Thank you very much. You're very informative. Listen, I'll invite all the panelists back and just ask a few final questions before we go. There's a few questions coming in about work experience. And if I was to ask one of you, maybe Noelle, what advice would you give somebody that wants to get into do work experience? How would they approach a salon owner like yourself?
I literally just replied to that one there. Yeah. Of course, first impressions last, 100%. Look, I suppose, be polite, be eager, always stress your willingness to learn. And like anything, when you're going in, even if it is just for experience, never look at it that way. I think you walk in going, you treat it as if it's a paid job. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think you have to show eagerness. And look, at first impressions do last. So politeness, manners, it all goes a long way. As I said, my first job turned out to be where I ended up doing my apprenticeship and where my career started. And that only, I mean, I wouldn't have been kept on there except, I suppose, I showed that little bit of initiative and an interest in the job.
Barry, what would you recommend? Now, I know one of the things I would always say to young people is, I don't want to hear from your mother if you're looking for a job. Do you know? So, I'm sure you're getting those phone calls as well. But Barry, what would you, as a salon owner of many salons now, because one of the questions was in the chat, how many do you own, Barry?
Well, let me see. I started off my own, start with a barbershop first, just one barbershop. I then got a second barbershop, and then I got a third barbershop, and then I got 2 hairdressers, and then I got another barbershop. So there was one stage I had 7, and now I got back into full-time teaching, and I recently sold a couple of the shops. I'm down to 1 barbershop and full-time teaching. So a lot, and it is a lot to take on, and the other guys have mentioned on management skills that you need and everything else that goes along with it, and you do learn a lot as you're going along the way. What I would say to people, you're right there, nobody wants to hear from the mothers. The initiative of somebody going in themselves is a huge part of it. I've often taken on guys who basically hung around the shop, showing that interest. I seen one guy in particular work for me who hung around outside the shop watching haircuts every evening after school. He used to come, hang around outside the shop, and he showed such an interest that his father came up to me then one of the days and said, "Listen, he's doing his leaving, sir. I don't want him to be a barber. Can you stop encouraging him?" And he's still a barber to this day, and that was the initiative that he showed coming into me. Like I mentioned earlier on, if somebody comes in and say, "Listen, I just want to learn," with genuine interest, then I do believe that's probably the best way of going about it. Speaking, because if you don't have, I suppose, the balls to go up and speak to someone, the industry itself is gonna trample on you, because you need to be able to talk to people, get on with people. So the best way is to just go in and ask, what's the worst thing that can happen? And building contacts is such a huge part in our industry. Barber and hairdressing is such a small industry. Like barbers in general, most guys would nearly know each other throughout the whole country, and that's not just the Midlands. And trade shows and that kind of thing, you do tend to meet a lot of your peers, the same people all the time. So getting to know barbers and getting to speak with them and putting your word in and showing your face, that's definitely the best way to go about it.
Very good. Barry, I'm going to ask you this question because it came in there as well. Are men harder to work on than women? Are the choosers?
I would say no. The other guys mentioned it as well, like the difficulties of the different type of heads. Like you will always have a guy that comes in with unruly, thick, wiry hair, and he hands you a picture of Cristiano Ronaldo, and he's like, I want to look like him, and they're going to be disappointed no matter what you do. You're like, there's only so much you can do. Like every different hairstyles are so different, But yeah, I would I'd say, what was the question again, Jim?
No, I can't even remember now. You made me laugh. It was about the gender. So, would you advise? Is it more difficult to cut male hair?
Male hair, definitely female hair. Like I would say, the cutting as such is not the hardest part in female hair. Obviously, like it's so much more complicated. Like with male hair, you're working with a lot less hair, I guess, and it just makes it that little bit more manageable. Fades in general and skin fades probably are that little bit more difficult, and women hairdressers will always say to me when I'm speaking with them, they want to kind of upskill and do different courses, and they'll tend to do a few barbering courses and mostly fading. Fading can be quite difficult. Fading in general is like, as I say, it's like maths on a head. You need to remember what grade you use last and dropping down through the guards, and it could be the smallest millimeters that makes the difference between getting out a heavy line and making it look like a smooth transition and blend. So there is a few difficult haircuts, but when you're going into the likes of the colouring within women's hair, and I guess it's just the fact that if you do F up a man's hair, 2 weeks is the difference, whereas if you do damage to a woman's hair, especially using bleaches and perming, like you're in big trouble. Like, it's scary, and that's what makes this the extra bit of pressure, I guess. Women ask for, like, there's such a huge different shades in blonde, whereas some women could come in with a particular shade of blonde that their hair just will not match that easily, and they can be disappointed that you haven't got it exactly perfect, and that can be really hard to deal with. Whereas a man, he might walk out disappointed, but in a week's time it's grown out. So I would say women.
Has it happened to you before, Barry, that you?
No.
That's okay. Rachel, coming from somebody that never wears makeup, okay, and knows nothing about makeup, okay, what advice would you give to young people that want to get into the makeup industry?
I suppose there's so much tools out there that you could be getting into, like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok demos now these days. Like there's some YouTube videos that I might scroll through, or TikToks or whatever, and like the skill that people have is ridiculous. And there's some serious YouTubers that you could be following, and I suppose there's nothing like the one-to-one either. So I think when things open up or whatever, it's really good to kind of get into your counter of choice or your makeup artist of choice, and just getting that one-on-one experience with them as well, and getting the brush into your hand with them next to you, really.
One of the questions that are coming in there, Peter, now is about management and going up the line to become manager. How hard is it or easy is it to go up the line to become a manager over salons and that and work your way up? Or what kind of skills should you be exuding to become a manager?
For me, is that for me?
Yes, Peter, sorry, yeah.
Honestly, I think what I've always thought is just make yourself, you know, a reliable, good employee that you know your manager or the business owner respects and values. Somebody who basically works hard, and you know, I think it's I've always moved up in every role I've ever had, and not because I've had tons and tons of qualifications. When I was a barman in school, like I started off when I was 12, working as a lounge boy in a bar. By the time I was 16, I was a barman. By the time I was 18 in college, I was, you know, running that bar. And same way when I was an English teacher in Germany, I was, you know, started off as an English teacher and then was then running an academy. Same with hairdressing, started off as a salon receptionist or coordinator into a school, running a school, managing a salon group, managing a team in L'Oreal. And it's not because of anything else other than just having cop on is really important. And, you know, getting on well with people is really important. People will see value in you when they're like, do you know what? We have a position available and we need somebody to fill that gap. Actually, Peter, he's a really good guy. And instead of having to go out there and recruit somebody to do that, that's going to take us weeks and weeks and weeks. Let's slot Peter in to do that. You know what I mean? He's made himself invaluable. So I think it's actually quite easy to move up. And once you show, I think, a level-headed, and you can, you know, one of the biggest things I think I've ever learned from being a manager is just, you know, just take your time and be calm. You know, I've never, ever, ever once in my life raised my voice at a member of the team. I've always been calm, and when there is an issue, when somebody comes in late into the salon or somebody does something wrong, it's like, take a step back, go away and think about it, and then, you know, speak to them as an individual, and always try and put yourself into their shoes and understand where they're coming from. Because a manager, I think Rachel touched on it there, a manager is not to dictate and give out. That's old school, that's dictatorial management. A manager there is to encourage and motivate and stimulate and help your team grow and understand that you get the most out of a team rather than from one individual. But otherwise, yeah, I think anything is possible.
Okay, thanks very much, and thanks to all the panelists tonight. There's a few questions we didn't get to here tonight. There's a question here about apprenticeships and how we get involved. Erica will be sending out an email in the next few days, and she will include in that about how to get involved with apprenticeships and where to go online to find your apprenticeships. So your final job of the night is a poll, which is being launched right now. Just 3 short questions, so please take your time to complete it. On behalf of Foróige, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We hope it was beneficial and that you have gained some insight into a career in hairdressing and beauty. For those of you who would like to be involved in Foróige or that would like to learn more about our programs and how they can benefit you, you will receive an email with all the information you need in the coming days. I want to sincerely thank our panelists who have so generously given their time and shared such valuable advice. Without your incredible panelists, none of these career webinars would be possible. Foróige is hosting more career webinars throughout the month of May, and you are very welcome to attend as many as you wish. You can do so by registering through Eventbrite. Thanks again, everyone, and good night.